The tragic death of Pete Maravich at just 40 years old shocked the basketball world, but the real story behind his passing reveals a life filled with hidden struggles that few people knew about. You probably know him as Pistol Pete, one of the most skilled players to ever touch a basketball. But what you might not know is the incredible pressure he faced and the battles he fought off the court that ultimately shaped his destiny. Pete Maravich was pure magic on the basketball court. His ball handling skills were so advanced that people thought he was from another planet. He could score from anywhere, pass behind his back without looking, and make shots that defied physics. But behind all that brilliance was a young man carrying weight that most of us could never imagine. It all started when Pete was just 7 years old. His father, Pete Maravich, a former player and coach himself, began putting Pete through intense basketball training that would make most adults quit. Every single night, Press made Pete shoot 100 free throws before he could go to bed. No exceptions, no excuses. While other kids were playing video games or watching TV, Pete was in the gym perfecting his craft under his father's watchful eye. Press wasn't just demanding, he was controlling in ways that went far beyond normal parenting. He reportedly threatened Pete with a gun if he ever got into trouble or started drinking. The pressure was so intense that it created something Press called a one-man show mentality in Pete. This mindset helped Pete become an incredible individual player, but it also made it harder for him to work with teammates when he reached the NBA. The family dynamics were complicated and painful. Pete's mother struggled with serious alcohol problems, and in 1974, she tragically took her own life. This devastating loss hit Pete hard and likely contributed to his own battles with drinking. Research shows that Pete developed alcoholism during his playing days, following a pattern that seemed to run in his family. Despite all the pressure and personal struggles, Pete's talent was undeniable. He became a legend at LSU, where he still holds the NCAA scoring record, even though he played before the three-point line existed. Can you imagine what his numbers would look like with today's rules? He averaged over 44 points per game for his entire college career, a record that will probably never be broken. When Pete made it to the NBA, his skills translated beautifully, but the team-first mentality that professional basketball required was sometimes at odds with the solo style his father had drilled into him. Still, he was selected as an all-star multiple times and earned respect from players and fans across the league. After Pete retired from basketball in 1980, things got even more complicated for him. Without the structure and purpose that basketball provided, he entered what can only be described as a period of searching. He tried everything you can imagine, looking for meaning and peace. He explored yoga, became interested in Hinduism, studied UFOs, experimented with vegetarianism, and tried macrobiotics. In 1982, he adopted a full vegetarian diet as part of his journey toward finding himself. This was a time when mental health awareness was nowhere near what it is today. Athletes like Pete were expected to be tough and handle everything on their own. The idea of getting professional help for depression or anxiety wasn't really accepted back then, so Pete struggled in silence, trying to figure out who he was beyond basketball. Eventually, Pete found what he was looking for in Christianity. He became a born-again Christian and said it brought him the peace he had been searching for his entire life. For the first time in years, he seemed to have found genuine happiness and purpose beyond the basketball court. But while Pete was working on his mental and spiritual health, there was something else happening inside his body that nobody knew about, including Pete himself. He had been born with a rare heart condition called a missing left coronary artery. Most people have two main arteries that supply blood to their heart, but Pete was born with only one. His right coronary artery had grown larger to try to compensate, but it was still a dangerous situation that could become fatal at any time. The truly scary part is that this condition went completely undiagnosed throughout Pete's entire life. He had regular checkups, he stayed in good physical shape, and he never showed obvious symptoms that would have alerted doctors to the problem. He was essentially walking around with a ticking time bomb in his chest, and nobody knew it. Speaking of staying connected to the action you love, just like Pete never missed a beat on the court, you shouldn't miss your favorite games either. FUBO makes it easy to catch all the basketball action and more with their comprehensive streaming service. Whether you're watching college games, the NBA, or any other sport, Fubo has you covered with crystal clear streaming and all the channels you need. Check out the link in the description to start your FUBO experience today and never miss the plays that matter most. In a moment that still gives people chills, Pete once told a reporter that he didn't want to play 10 years in the NBA and then die of a heart attack at 40. It was almost like he somehow knew what was coming, even though medically speaking, there was no way he could have known about his heart condition. On January 5th, 1988, Pete was playing in a pickup basketball game at a church in Pasadena. He was 40 years old, the exact age he had mentioned in that eerie prediction years earlier. During the game, Pete suddenly collapsed from heart failure. The undiagnosed heart defect that had been hiding in his body his entire life finally caught up with him. The tragedy of Pete's death wasn't just that he died young, but that it could have potentially been prevented if the medical technology and awareness had been better back then. Today, athletes undergo much more comprehensive heart screenings that might have caught his condition early. But in Pete's era, this kind of detailed cardiac testing just wasn't standard practice. Pete's death sent shock waves through the basketball community and beyond. Here was a man who had seemed to overcome his personal demons, found peace in his faith, and was enjoying life beyond basketball. His sudden passing reminded everyone how fragile life can be, even for the strongest and most talented among us. Looking back at Pete's life, you can see how all the different pieces fit together. The intense pressure from his father created both his incredible skills and his personal struggles. The family history of mental health and addiction issues contributed to his own battles with alcohol and depression, and the undiagnosed heart condition that he carried his entire life eventually became the cause of his untimely death. But Pete's story isn't just about tragedy, it's also about resilience, talent, and ultimately finding peace. Despite all the challenges he faced, Pete Maravich left behind a basketball legacy that still inspires players today. His creativity, scoring ability, and pure love for the game changed how people think about what's possible on a basketball court. Young players still study Pete's old game footage to learn his moves. His college scoring records remain untouched decades later, and his influence can be seen in the flashy, creative style of play that defines modern basketball. Players like Stephen Curry, Kyrie Irving, and Damian Lillard all show hints of the Pistol Pete magic in their games. Pete's story also serves as an important reminder about the pressures that young athletes face and the importance of mental health support. The intense training, family expectations, and public scrutiny that Pete experienced are still common in youth sports today. His struggles with alcohol and depression highlight why it's so important for athletes to have access to proper mental health resources. Most importantly, Pete's journey toward finding peace through faith shows that it's never too late to turn your life around. Even after years of struggling with addiction and searching for meaning, he was able to find genuine happiness and purpose in his final years. That's a powerful message for anyone who feels lost or overwhelmed by life's challenges. Pete Maravich lived just 40 years, but he packed more talent, struggle, triumph, and tragedy into those 4 decades than most people experience in much longer lives. His death was tragic and came far too soon, but his impact on basketball and his ultimate triumph over personal demons create a legacy that goes far beyond any game statistics. The next time you watch a basketball player make an impossible shot or thread a pass through traffic that seems to defy the laws of physics, remember Pete Maravich. Remember the little boy who shot 100 free throws every night, the young man who battled personal demons while dazzling crowds, and the person who finally found peace before his time was cut short. And that's the real story behind the tragic death of Pete Maravich. A life of incredible highs and devastating lows, ending just when it seemed like he had finally found the happiness he had been searching for his entire life. If this story moved you or taught you something new about one of basketball's greatest legends, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of sports icons. What aspect of Pete's story surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.